Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 125 of Tech of a Tea. I am, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today we've got a guest that I've been wanting to talk to for quite a while. I just hadn't gotten around to sending Nick a message. I've been considering sending you a message for months. It's just like things kept happening, and then I had bad internet for a while. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome everyone. I'm doing fine, thanks. It's like 10 a.m. here, and yeah, it's a very good day.
Yeah, you were saying you got back from doing a workout? How'd that go?
Yeah, yeah, I work out almost every morning when my ankle doesn't act up. But yeah, I do a little bit of weight training in the house. I
Mm,
don't go to a gym because I hate gyms, and
yeah.
and I tend to do a bit of cardio as well. So I tend to mix and match. I do about an hour of weightlifting and then about 30 minutes of running.
Oh, okay, so you actually do like a full-on workout in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, honestly, like, if you can get your own weights, it's way better off. Like, get your own weights, get your own cardio gear. It's gonna be way cheaper in the long run.
yeah, absolutely.
I've got a set of weights sitting outside right now, and I don't have an elliptical, but I've got I don't know what you call them. Like, I think it's called like a bike trainer. You can mount a bike onto it and then
Oh
basically
yeah, okay.
pedal on the spot, and that does the job. I've been pretty
Yeah,
lazy with
absolutely.
working out though, so I need to get back into that.
It takes a lot of will, and it's been like I don't know 4 years since I've been doing like these workouts very regularly, and even after 4 years, some mornings I just wake up and I'm like, oh God, no, please.
Yup. Yeah, I
It's still
definitely,
tough.
I definitely know the feeling. Like, I used to back after I finished high school, so like 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. I every morning, doesn't matter if it was raining or not, I would be up and I'd do like a 5 kilometer run every morning. And then I got lazy, and the problem is that when you get lazy, it's really hard to get back into it because
Oh yeah,
that first
yeah,
week
and you
or
lose your
so is
progress extremely fast as well. Like
yup, yup,
it took you like 2 or 3 months to reliably do 5 kilometers, and then in 2 weeks you're not able to do three. It's
yup,
just super weird.
yup, absolutely. Um, I don't even know why I stopped. I think I might have pushed myself too hard one of the days, and yeah, I think I hurt my knee or something. Not like really bad, but enough where I was like, I'm gonna just wait on this for a bit, just see what really happens. And then I waited too long, and then my habits fell
Yeah.
out. I think it happened during the middle of winter as well, so I didn't want to be doing it in the first place.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I had so many instances of this, like, oh no, I hurt a little bit, or oh no, I'm hungover, I can do it today, and then today starts transferring to a week, a month,
Mm-hmm.
and before you know it, it's been 4 months since you did anything. You're like, okay, I'm starting to get fat again. I need to do
Yep.
something.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, I'd put on, I think, like 10 or so kilos since I last checked. It's like, it's not terrible. Like, you're not, it's not the point where you're really noticing it, but
Yeah.
once you see that number, you're like, wait, maybe I should actually do something about that. Uh,
Yeah, at my highest point, I was like 90 kilos, and
mm,
I'm relatively short. I'm like a meter and 72 centimeters. So my ideal
okay.
weight should be at around 70.
Yeah.
And like 90 kilos, like you could really see it, and that's
Mm,
what motivated me to get working out again.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I maintain that weight sort of. There's still a bit of chubbiness I need to lose, but
Mm.
honestly, I'm fine with that.
It's probably better than the state I was in before, because there was a period, I think for like a 2 or 3 month period where I was doing keto, and if you know anyone who's done keto, you would know they lose weight. Like, you drop off a lot of weight really
Yeah.
quickly because you burn like a lot of that like water weight you have. So there was a period where I was probably a bit underweight, but there's a middle point in there that I do like. And now that I've moved back to where I grew up, there's this really nice cycling track, and I used to cycle because there's like, I think like there's a 20K cycling track or something, and there's another one that goes in the other direction that takes you all the way up to the capital. So it's like a 50 or so K track you can go on. And I used to cycle pretty much every single day, and I do enjoy cycling,
Yeah,
but
it's really nice.
yeah, and I have like a nice bike as well. It's just sitting in the shed, just collecting dust, basically.
Mm. Yeah, it just takes that initial push to start again, and once you've done
Mm.
it one, 2, or 3 times in a row, then you're good.
Yeah, I've sort of started back up again in the past like week or so. So it's not like I haven't started to like, go running again, but that is something I definitely want to start pushing, especially before it hits, we're in the good point of like is it still winter? Wait, is it summer? Wait, is it summer for you? If it's
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so it is winter. Yeah, I never remember what season I'm in. So it's getting to that good point of winter where it's starting to warm back up again because we're sort of getting towards spring. So it's probably a good point to start before it gets to summer because here, summer will get to like 35 plus degrees every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and then at that point you don't really want to do like 15 minutes of cycling or 15 kilometers of cycling. Not
Back
in
then,
that
I
heat.
I would like do it in the morning or like in the late afternoon.
Yeah.
Then it works out. But you definitely, there are some people who are like, you know what? Come rain or shine, 35 degrees, -10. I'm gonna get out there, but I don't have that level of determination.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, you know what? We can talk about exercising the entire podcast, or we can talk about what we do. So I guess we
Yeah.
can talk a bit about YouTube. So, or I guess we'll start with Linux. When did you get into Linux, and why is that something you were at all thinking of doing?
I started using Linux. It was 2006, I think. I had just started college. I was studying. Well, it was not college. It was like med school because I
Yep.
did 2 years of med school. And at that point, I had no computer of my own, and I really wanted to buy a Mac because they just looked gorgeous. And at that point, like you had Mac OS or Windows XP, and so yeah, of course, Windows XP
yeah.
looked
Okay,
like
I can see why you would.
atrocious
Yeah.
compared to Mac OS. But I didn't have any money, so I bought a basic, like refurbished, run-of-the-mill laptop, really super basic, and like one CPU core, 2 gigs of RAM, or not even 2 gigs. I think it was 1 gig. A very crappy laptop, and I installed Windows XP. I tried to turn it into a Mac, and obviously it didn't work out well. I installed like customization packs, viruses, whatever. And then I looked online at other options because it just wasn't doing it. And I thought, I saw that thing called Ubuntu, and people were saying, yeah, you can customize it to look like anything else. You can have the real global menu. You can have tons of stuff. I was like, I'm going to try that. And so I started using it, and I had a few issues, but I learned to solve them. And after a while, I was like, I'm just going to keep the default Ubuntu interface because I like it more and it works fine. And from then on, I just used Linux on and off. There were periods where I didn't even have any computers for like 2 or 3 years because I wasn't interested anymore. There are some periods where I used Windows because I just wanted a computer for gaming. But I've been using Linux pretty much exclusively since I started the channel. So 2018, early 2018.
Yeah. I was trying to find a picture
Yes.
of Ubuntu 6.04, and I managed to find one finally. It took a while. A lot of the pictures
Yeah,
were like
6.06, yeah.
a lot of them were like really, really low res. I wanted to find something that actually looked good. I forgot how this looked. There was a while back where I did a stream like going up between every like major version of Ubuntu and sort of seeing how GNOME and Ubuntu had evolved. It looked surprisingly good, to be honest, for the time.
Yeah, it's like people in their heads have that image of Linux looking like Windows 95 up until like Vista or 7 came out. But that was not the case. When XP was out, there were GNOME and KDE themes and desktops that looked way better than that.
Yeah, like even like stock GNOME wasn't that bad.
Yeah. It was just the icons. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
The stock GNOME icons for the time were just like, oh.
Well, nowadays, there's so much customization that is available now that if you want to like still have that look, you can obviously go back to it. You can have you can turn KDE. You've probably seen all the themes for it, like turning KDE into macOS, turning into Windows 7, there was one for Windows 11. I don't know why you would do that, but like there's so much you can do with it now that any sort of style is sort of available if you want to put that work into it. So you started with Ubuntu, and where did you go from there?
Well, I stuck to Ubuntu for a while. I think the first time I tried something else was like 4 or 5 years after I started using Ubuntu. I stuck to Ubuntu because at the time it was the only one that ran correctly on the hardware that I had.
Right.
And they just gave that impression of moving super fast and having new stuff. Every 6 months you had a redesign, a small redesign. You had well, that new wallpaper, obviously, which
Yeah.
was like basically at the time coffee stains and brown, but it worked well.
I
And you
like
had
it, to
tons
be
of new
honest.
features. Yeah, like the Intrepid Ibex wallpaper, like the 8.04 was one of my
Mhm.
favorites. And
Okay.
was it? No, it was Hardy Heron, not Intrepid Ibex. But yeah, it just looked
You
cool. And
remember
they
those
had some new
names?
features again and again and again. And I just, like, when I looked at the other distributions, they just looked like, I don't know, more stuck. And they just didn't feel, maybe they just didn't communicate as much. Maybe I wasn't following the right, like, channels
Mhm.
and stuff to see what they were doing. But Ubuntu just felt like it was moving, like, forwards a lot more than other alternatives.
Mhm.
And after a point, yeah, I started dipping into Fedora. I started dipping into OpenSUSE. What did I use? I think I used Slackware for a while as well.
Oh.
But it was just like small distro hubs that lasted for 2 weeks, and then I
Right.
went back to
Right.
Ubuntu because something broke, something wasn't working. I think I even tried Linspire at some point, which was like that small free version of Lindows, which was
Oh,
a
right.
commercial
That. Yeah.
distribution that was trying to do something weird. Where I used a lot of things at the time, but it just didn't last.
Mhm.
Basically, I stuck to Ubuntu and I switched between GNOME and KDE. I remember compiling KDE 4 at the time when it was still in alpha and beta. I would come back every day, download the 500 or 600 megabytes on my shitty connection, and then it would like take 4 hours to compile anything, and it wouldn't work. It was just good days.
Well,
I loved it.
we've definitely come a long way since that point. That's for sure. Like, I haven't been using Linux that long. I only started in, I want to say, like 20. It's on my channel because I did a video about it when I first. I want to say like 2018, 2019, something like that. So I sort of started like it has improved since that point, but you were saying you've had hardware issues. That's sort of something that I never really had to deal with. I started on like with Linux on a laptop. I started with Arch, so if anything was wrong, it was going to be wrong on Arch, and everything basically just works now. Like obviously, there's
Yeah.
still issues here and there, especially if you're trying to run certain capture cards, for example, like anything, most things that Elgato makes, or you're trying
Yeah.
to run really specialist hardware. But when it comes to just the general user experience, nowadays
Yeah.
most things are
Yeah.
just
It's plug and
good.
play. Yeah, it's just plug and play. You plug your stuff, it's detected. Like I just bought a printer because I used to print stuff when I had a real job, and now I don't, so I didn't have a printer. So I bought one. I didn't even look what was compatible. I bought this HP thing and I
Mm.
just turned it on, I connected to the Wi-Fi, and all my laptops and desktops automatically recognize it and are allowed to print to it. Nothing to
Wow.
install, no drivers, no nothing. The experience is even better than on Windows for that printer, where I would have had to download some stuff,
Hmm.
and I would have had like 3 or 4 pieces of shovelware stuffed in my face, so HP printing thingy or
Yo.
HP scan stuff or whatever. The experience was nice. And I mean, I never had like big hardware issues with Linux. I had
Yeah.
like Wi-Fi troubles because at the
Yeah, of
time that
course.
was
Yeah.
really the issue with Realtek Wi-Fi dongles because my laptop didn't have integrated Wi-Fi at the time.
Oh.
I had to use a dongle. Oh
Oh.
yeah,
Right. I
it was
guess
a
you said
piece of shit.
2006, didn't you? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it was like from 2004, and it was refurbished, and I bought it in 2006. So it
Right.
was just not a good device, really not. And so that dongle really gave me nightmares. I had to use like something called ndis wrapper, which allows you to grab the Windows driver, the windows.inf file, and use it on Linux. It just reads some values from there and automatically maps that to another driver. I don't exactly know how it works, but it was a
Mm.
weird thing. And it meant that I had to write a script to restart, to kill the connection and restart it every 24 hours, because if not, it would fail and I would have to reboot. Good times, really. But honestly, yeah, nowadays, I can't say I had any issues whatsoever, whatever the hardware. There are some small niggles here and there, like
Mm.
some fractional scaling issues or some
Yeah.
NVIDIA related stuff, but it's not like you can basically install any distro on any hardware and have it work 99%. Maybe not the fingerprint readers or stuff like that, but
Mm. Uh, I actually haven't looked into. I had a fingerprint reader on my old laptop, but I know there are drivers for like certain specific fingerprint readers, and there are these really like small but dedicated communities of people around using fingerprint readers, but it's not something I've ever actually like really looked too deep into to see what the compatibility is actually like. But if I was to do so, I'd probably just want to go and do it on something like Ubuntu or Fedora, where it's probably just gonna. I don't want to deal with setting it up myself. I'm not going to try to do that on Arch. I'm not going to do it on Void. Not going to do it on Gentoo. Anything like that where I actually have to do it myself. I will let the people who want to go and maintain a distro deal with that for me.
Yeah, nowadays the laptops I have are from Slimbook and Tuxedo, and they have like a small infrared camera next to the main camera, and so you can install something called Slimbook Face, which allows you to unlock your computer with your face, and it works in the terminal as well. It works when you're trying to log in. It works every time there's a sudo prompt. You just need to make sure that the light is okay, because if you're overexposed or underexposed, it won't pick it up. But yeah, it works really well, and so for now, fingerprint reader would make no sense for me because that's just way more practical. It's probably not super secure. I'm probably sure you can fool it with a picture or something.
Yeah. Well,
it's just convenient.
Even like I think it was a few generations back. Was it Apple or Samsung? One of the major cell phone manufacturers. Their face detection was being fooled by a picture. So I wouldn't be surprised if this, much, less R&D solution has that similar sort of problem. But as a convenience feature, I like the idea of just signing with your face. Like, I know it's not probably the safest way to do it, but I tend to just leave my laptop unlocked when I just have it out. So that's not secure either.
Yeah, me too. And my disk is not encrypted. And
if your disk is not encrypted, it's just game over. If someone has hardware access, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, absolutely. They can grab anything they want. You just boot a live CD and a live USB, and then you just grab anything.
I don't, consider myself to be the most valuable of targets, though. So I think I'm fine. You mentioned NVIDIA before, so I guess it's fair to say that you're using an NVIDIA card right now?
Yeah, I'm using one on my desktop, which I'm on right now, and I'm using one on my main laptop, which is the Tuxedo Stellaris 15. It's got a 3060 Ti, I think.
Okay.
And I only have one laptop that doesn't have NVIDIA, which is the Slimbook Pro X14.
Yep. What's in your desktop?
It's a 3070.
Okay. I've been in the market for buying a new GPU, especially with the prices coming down now. I don't know what it's like for you, but in Australia, we're seeing not MSRP, but like a little bit above, where previously, so I was looking at the 6700 XT. Previously, they were going for $1,250 Australian. Now they are $700, which is still a lot of money, but it's only
it's
like
almost half.
It's like $50 more than it should be, which I am fine with paying, especially because right now I'm running a RX 570.
570. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's not. That's not fantastic.
Roughly a third of the performance.
Yeah. Well, it's a good card if you want to game like a 1080p. Works well.
I stream with it. It runs perfectly fine.
Yeah. I have a 580 on a very old Mac Pro, like a 2011 Mac Pro, the giant cheat raider one. And it still runs like pretty well. Every time I boot it up, I'm surprised because it's like a 10-year-old card or something, and it just runs well.
Like that. I don't know.
And as per graphics cards, the only reason I go with NVIDIA is because I use DaVinci Resolve to edit videos, and basically anything other than NVIDIA will be a nightmare to set up for Resolve on Linux. It just doesn't support Intel at all, and for AMD you have to install the AMD GPU Pro drivers, which also seem to have issues and crash a lot, so for now it's just NVIDIA.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me to look at DaVinci Resolve. I just haven't gotten around to it. So what has your experience with it actually been like?
Well, it's the most stable piece of software I ever used, like not just for video editing, but for everything, basically. It just never, ever crashes. It's extremely fast and responsive. I never have any stutters. I can edit in 4K on the laptop with the 3060. It's gonna play back at 60 FPS with effects applied, color correction applied. With tons of titles and transitions on top of it, it's still running at 60 FPS. It's just extremely fast and smooth. It's super powerful. Like you can do audio editing, video editing, color correction. You have a node-based editor for creating your titles, your own special effects, your own animations, which I haven't dived at all into. Like the it's called Fusion, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't dived at all in it. But I'm starting to use Fairlight, which is the audio editor, which is like really, really nice as well. Like just audio correction. If you have a little bit of echo, a little bit of stuff, you have a super powerful equalizer. You have a super easy to use compressor, noise reduction tools. It's just an all-in-one package that works well. I bought the paid version though because like the free version on Linux has abysmal codec support.
I heard something like it doesn't support encoding above 1080p or something weird like that.
There might be something like that, but the most annoying issue is that it only supports like the Move container and WAV16 audio and like nothing MP4 based. So you basically have to convert everything you record to stuff it into it. It's a one FFmpeg command line, but it's taking a long time each time. And I think it's just because they can't license the codecs on Linux because they don't have an agreement with the OS manufacturer. But the paid version has a lot more support. You still cannot use MP3 audio, I think, but anything apart from that works really well. So sometimes if you import an MP4, you're not going to get any audio, so you just have to convert it to change the audio codec. But it's not that complicated, and it takes like 5 seconds because if you just convert the audio and keep the video as it is, it's just super fast. It's just a very good program, and I used Kdenlive before, which I really liked as well. And it was very stable for me as well with the Flatpak version.
I was going to say.
It didn't crash a lot. Yeah, it didn't crash a lot. Yeah, the app image was horrendous. I don't think it even started at some point. and the regular packaged version also crashed all the time. The only one that did the trick for me was the Flatpak.
Yeah.
It just worked super well. But there's no GPU acceleration. And so every time you add like 3 titles on top of your video, it's going to stutter and the playback is going to be horrible and the export times are super long compared to Resolve. For Resolve, I export my videos. I export them in 1080p 60 FPS, and for a 20-minute video, it takes 3 minutes to export.
Yeah.
And Kdenlive, it was 30 minutes. It's just it's just a big time save, especially when you review your video and you notice like, oh crap, this title is not well aligned, or I forgot some B-roll here. If you have to re-export the video, it takes 3 minutes, not 30. So yeah, it's just a time saver. And Kdenlive's GPU acceleration is just
there's a toggle for
you
it.
have it, but it crashed all the time for me. Just it worked well in the editing part, but trying to render with any GPU accelerated effects crashed all the time. I just never managed to make it work. But maybe it was NVIDIA related. I don't know.
I haven't had it crash render. No, that's a lie. I haven't had it crash rendering recently. I don't think it was a GPU related crash. So there was a period. So Kdenlive's, it's such a weird program because for a while it went through this period of like one version it's great, next version it's terrible. And there was a period where the render queue broke. So I couldn't the way I usually do my videos is I bulk record, so I'll do everything at the start of the week and then I will edit it, and usually I'll like render it all out so I just know it's done. I couldn't render multiple videos at once. So I had to like open up multiple instances. That was a pain. But when I have to make some audio edits to this, which I probably will because I never managed to like, level audio properly when I'm doing it on OBS, this will take about, I want to say, minimum 45 minutes to render, I want to say. Something like that, which isn't horrible. It could be worse, but...
an hour-long video, something like that?
Whatever it ends up. However long we end up going for. It's...
Well, it's not fast. Yeah.
It's not fast. It does
it's not fast.
Of the open source solution, this is the sad thing. Right now, of the open source solutions, it's probably the best.
Yeah, there's Olive, which is starting to look good.
I've heard a lot of good things about
accelerated, but it just lacks a ton of effects, of color correction tools. It's just very bare bones right now in terms of what you can do with it, but it is GPU accelerated. Apparently, even it's still in alpha, I think, but for an alpha, it's still very, very stable.
Yeah, people keep
this might be like the next thing that comes in at some point. But for now, I just need something that doesn't crash, that doesn't have issues. especially when I moved to Resolve, I
Mhm.
still had a full-time job and I
Yep.
did 2 videos per week, and I just could not have my video editor not working because I had like one afternoon to do like 2 videos.
Yep.
So any single glitch would just throw me off and mean that every video would be delayed. So I had to have a reliable solution, and Resolve was it for me. But I wish they had better support. I wish they supported like the basic regular AMD drivers
Yep.
with OpenCL. And so I would, in an instant, replace those NVIDIA cards because even though the drivers are pretty good on the desktop side of things, like
Mhm.
I don't have any issues on the desktop side of things. I don't have screen tearing, I don't have stutters, I don't have crashes. The drivers are just good right now. And they even work with Wayland now, so yeah,
Oh yeah, I
it
was gonna
just
ask you
works
about
well.
Wayland.
Yeah, it runs on Wayland pretty well. Now, I think it's just
Now.
very recently.
Yeah.
It's like the latest release, like 5.15 point something.
Mhm.
That's the release you want if you want to run Wayland. Anything before that will just like have problems. But on Wayland, it runs really well. But on laptops, like hybrids, NVIDIA and Intel or NVIDIA plus AMD, it's just a nightmare. Like
Yeah,
Linux does not support hybrid well at all.
it's bad enough with Xorg, but I've heard nothing but terrible things with Wayland. Like I've spoken
Yeah.
to people who just say they literally cannot boot into a Wayland session.
I managed to do it on my laptop, but I don't think it used the Intel card at all. Like, I think it was supposed to be in hybrid mode,
Mm.
but the battery life, I think it would just use the NVIDIA card all the time.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't think that's ready. That's not ready.
Mm.
But yeah, if Resolve supported AMD GPUs, I would switch in an instant. I would just move to AMD GPUs. It's just less hassle. You don't have additional drivers to install. You know it's gonna run well every time. You know there's not going to be a weird release that crashes something, and you're gonna have to wait like 2 months for it to be fixed.
Yep.
It's just simpler.
With Olive, I for a while was using 0.1. That was the like really alpha version, which isn't being developed anymore. The dev is working on 0.2, and people keep telling me that 0.2 is getting really, really good. So I need to go and check it out again. The problem is, so the way it's being released, there's like a nightly build. You can try it out every day. When I last tried it, it was great. Until I tried to render, where it has well, at least it did at the time. I don't know if it's been fixed. It had a memory leak where rendering a 10-minute video would use all of my system memory. For the record, I have 32 gigs of RAM,
Yeah,
and when
that
it ran
shouldn't
out of
happen.
when it ran out of memory, it would stop the rendering.
Oh god, yeah, that
So
sucks.
that was not ready. The dev says like this is not production ready. This is very much in alpha, so
Yeah.
that's totally expected. Like I'm not going to use Olive. I was for a while in 0.1 because 0.1 was fine. I'm not using 0.2 until the dev thinks it's ready. But when it is, I'm very excited to see like what it can actually do.
Yeah, and I will absolutely give it a shot because like my videos are not very complex. Like there's not tons of transitions and
Mm.
effects. Every single animation that I make it like just by putting elements on the screen and setting keyframes for them to move.
Yeah.
I don't use many of the features of Resolve. All I need is a few transitions, like things that move left and right, a few titles, and that's it. So when Olive has a good stable release, I will definitely try it. And if it runs well and if it can do what I need, I will probably move to it. If it's GPU accelerated, if the performance is correct. I'd rather use something open source than a proprietary software, honestly.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about videos anyway, like what is like a, I guess a, how would I say? What is your process for making a video? Like from I guess your planning stage to like getting it on YouTube.
Well, okay, so I start by picking all the topics I want to talk for the month at the beginning, at the end of the
Oh,
previous month. So
okay.
I lay down all the topics, 3 videos per week, including the Linux news videos, and I just put them on a calendar, basically on a to-do list. I pick all the topics. I offer a bit more than what I need to patrons. Patrons get to vote on the topics that they want to see, and then those topics I start working on. So I try to do multiple script writes in the same week, so I have like stuff in advance. I try to batch write, batch record,
Yeah.
and batch edit as much as I can. So I'm in like one state of mind for every single
Yeah,
step.
yeah, I know the feeling, yeah.
So I write the scripts in advance. They're all fully written.
Hmm.
There's no improvisation in the middle of it. It's all written. Even the jokes are prepared in advance. But yeah, I write them. It takes about like 3 to 4 hours, depending on the topic, to research, to find information, to test the things. Sometimes it's
Okay,
like
yeah,
more 8 hours when you have something to try out really hard. But
yeah, yeah, makes sense.
and scripts go to about like 12,000 to 13,000 characters, something like that. I try to limit them in that range because after that you tend to have like 20-minute videos, and those
Yeah.
it's too long. After that, I just set up the recording. So it's mainly in this room, sometimes in my sunroom, but yeah, the audio is not that great, and sometimes you have to like the sun shining right behind
Mm.
you, which makes it really hard to color correct properly. So I just record here. I use a Sony, I think it's an Alpha 6600 something,
Okay, yep.
camera with a prime lens, which is basically an ultra wide
Yep.
50 millimeter lens. Super basic, nothing to tweak or do. It stays on the same settings all the time. So
Hmm.
I just set it, I turn it, I press record, I set up the lights, I press record, and I get started.
Yep.
Once that's done, I copy all the data to the desktop or the laptop. Recently, I've only been editing on the Stellaris 15 because I don't know, I really like editing on a laptop. It just feels nice. I wish it
Mhm.
had a 17-inch screen instead of a 15-inch, but it's still good. And so I copy all the data, I put that in Resolve, and then there's all the process of normalizing the audio, putting it in mono instead of stereo, like color correcting the thing, cutting all the as and weird things that I say because I'm not a native English speaker, so I
Mhm.
make a lot of mistakes and
Don't
I
worry, I am a
mispronounce
native
tons
English
of
speaker, and
things.
I make a ton of mistakes as well.
Like sometimes I just like take 5 tries to even get a sentence out. I'm like, come on,
Yep.
just say it.
Yep.
And then once that's done, I just store that for later. I do
Mhm.
all the videos like this, and
Mhm.
then I just on the next day generally I take that edited A roll and I record the B roll and I put it on top of it. I put all the animations, I export, I upload, and then I publish. I generally finish the export in the same day as I will upload and publish.
Okay.
I tend to finish the video on the same exact day, just to make sure that if something has changed in the meantime, if there's like something new that's relevant to the video, I can add a small string of text to correct something that would be incorrect, or just even re-record a small part to
Yep.
correct something. I try to not like upload too much in advance, except when I go on holidays.
Yeah.
That's about it. After that, it's just a lot of planning beforehand, and
Mhm.
after that, I just go through the motions. I have my to-do list. I know that this video needs to be done for tomorrow, so I need to record this. I need to write this. It's just pretty easy.
Wow, I realize every time I talk to someone about this, I realize that everybody has way more plans than I am.
Well, that's also the style of your videos. Like you're like you're giving your opinions,
Mhm.
and like you pride yourself on not specifically having a well detailed script. Like you have your talking points
Mhm.
and you follow your mental process, which I think is another appeal to the video as well, because it's just like a more genuine. I think like it's
Mm.
not prepared, it's not planned. You have not like cut every single word to make that fit into a single format. You just say what you think, and I think that's also a nice way to do it.
It does lead to me having to do a lot of re-records. Like if I was to like I have noticed that when I do plan out more, like I obviously I do a lot of research on the videos, but like I mean planning out in the scripting phase, when I do like on the videos that I have done that, those videos tend to go really, really smoothly, which makes sense because I know more about specifically what I'm gonna say. But I just I don't know, I've tried it. I'm not a really big fan of that style. I kind of like the more sort of thinking on the spot.
Yeah.
I've got my notes laid out in the like order I want to say them, and then if because sometimes I'll think of like a joke on the spot and I'll try to put that in somewhere. Whereas if I was to go purely based on the script, maybe that wouldn't fit as easily. It would sort of seem out of place unless I specifically wrote the joke into the script in the first place. But
Yeah, writing the joke in the script absolutely requires you to have a specific sentence before
yeah,
and after the joke, because you have to set it up.
hmm
You can just drop something like this. So if you write the jokes in advance, you have to write the whole script. Basically, it
Mm.
means that you have everything scripted, which yeah, it's a lot of work.
The
Yeah,
only
and it also forces you to go into a certain avenue. Like
mm,
you can't think of something on the spot and rejig your script. If
mm.
I wanted to do that, I would have to be okay. No, this paragraph doesn't work at all. So I'm stopping the recording. I'm sitting back down. I'm rewriting something, and then I'm going back to record that thing. And yeah, that's not as fluid, probably.
Mm. The only issue that I have is sometimes when I'm taking notes, I know what I'm thinking like at the time. I come back to the recording, I'm like, wait, why did I write that? What is what am I trying to say here? I've gotten
Yeah,
I try to like expand upon things a little bit more because there have been plenty of times where I look at my notes. Like sometimes I'll plan things like a month in advance. Like they just sort of like it's not something that's timely. It's like, hey, I'm looking at this piece of software. It can sort of happen whenever, and it just falls further and further back into the list. And when I get to it, I have no idea what the hell I wrote.
yeah, you have like a small bullet points with 3 words, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
What is
exactly.
this? And so sometimes I look at my list of video ideas because I have a task list with
Mm-hmm.
everything I think about sometimes, and sometimes I look at that, I'm like, what is this? What did I want to talk about exactly? Because there's like just 3 words jotted in a hurry, and like I don't understand why that would make a video.
Mm-hmm. Do you
But for
have?
me, I have to plan these. I have to
Yeah,
write
yeah.
these because as I'm not an English native English speaker, if I try to go, I tried the first videos I made were like rambly. I just recorded myself. I blasted music super
You gave
loudly,
me the
and
prompt
I
for it.
just
I'm gonna bring it up now.
oh no. I just recorded myself as I was trying something, and
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed I was so nervous, and I just felt like I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak English well enough, so I was speaking extremely fast. I was talking extremely fast, and I just like stumbled and mumbled the words, and it just was not interesting or audible. So I had to prepare the scripts in advance, so I would make sure that I wouldn't get confused by trying to speak in another language and trying to convey my point at the
Yup.
same time. Now it's been like 5 years, so I'm more comfortable with it, but it took a while. Yeah.
I think everybody goes to that problem of not really knowing how to speak on camera. But you've got like obviously the problem of not knowing English as well is going to be a big deal. But even like when I first started, for example, I think a problem that a lot of people don't realize is when you're speaking on camera, you can't really just speak on camera. The way that
Yeah.
you talk into a microphone is it has to be different from the way you normally talk. Because I've noticed this with every single person their first videos, with the exception of like a couple of crazy people, they sound really, really monotone and they sound like they
Yeah.
don't really want to be there. Like go back to DistroTube's early videos, go back to your early videos, go back to my early videos. It's all the exact same. You know what you're trying to talk about, but it just it doesn't sound like a video. You don't really know
Yeah.
how that works yet.
And honestly, I think it doesn't even sound like the way you spoke the words, because I think the microphone just flattens everything and
Mm-hmm.
normalizes everything. And when you try to record a video, you have to emphasize words. You have to put like that like a higher voice volume on some
Mm-hmm.
words, and
Yeah.
you have to do that to like separate the sentences to emphasize your point. And that's something you learn because well, when you start, you're like, "Hey guys, this is Nick," and and it
Yeah.
just doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work for video. It would
Mm.
work if you were talking to somebody face to face, but on a mic for a video, it just feels like flat and it's not interesting.
There are certain people that work really well with. Like, there are a couple of Twitch streamers that have a very particular voice where you sort of expect them to have that monotone
Yeah,
way of presenting, but those are very particular people. Like, there'll be some people that have like really, really like deep and gravelly
yeah,
voices where talking in any other way would sound weird to them. But for the regular sort of person, I absolutely agree. You need to well, the other problem there is you don't want to start like emulating the style of someone else. Like you want
yeah.
to sort of make that style of speaking on the microphone work for your style of voice and the way that you're trying to present the content. Like if you were trying to Like, if you wanted to present a video like Mr. Beast would present a video, for example, it would seem really, really out of place.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
like, that's a style that works for that kind of content and for that kind of person. But you gotta find the thing that works for you and the thing that works for the way you want to achieve your content. I think that's something that I've only sort of recently worked out. Like, I've tried different ways of presenting videos over the past couple of years, and I would say it's not really till maybe the last 6 months to a year or so where I actually feel like I'm actually comfortable on the microphone, not just I am talking here and it seems like I know what I'm doing. It's not something that people watching the video notice, but it's something that, especially when you're editing your own content and you hear your voice so many times, like you do hundreds. In my case, I've done over 1,000 videos. You really start to pick up on the way that your voice is changing, the way your presentation style is changing over that time.
Yeah, I have the exact same like timeline. I think like my videos have started really getting better when I got the Sony camera,
Yeah, yeah.
because I was recording everything on a smartphone before, so everything looked really flat. There
Ah,
was no depth.
you
The
made the
colors
correct
were just super
decision.
muted. So I went with something a little bit better. And at that point, I also decided that I wanted to change a little bit of the style. So I stopped sitting down and I
Mhm,
started being up. So I record everything like standing up. And I don't know, it just gave me a little bit more of energy. Instead
mhm.
of being lounging in the chair and
Yeah.
talking about something, you're up, you're talking. It's like you're giving some kind of a talk or a conference. And I think it just made my stuff more dynamic. And now I feel really comfortable with that style. It just feels like normal for me.
Mhm,
And I don't dread the recording part like I used to. Because before I was like,
mhm,
oh no, this is gonna be hard. How are you gonna mumble this paragraph that you want to
mhm.
do facing the camera? Nowadays, I'm just, okay, let's record. Boom, I do it. I whip it out in like 30 minutes for a 15-minute video, and we're done.
Wow,
So basically, I cut off half.
your planning does a lot to shorten that down. It usually takes me about an hour to record.
Yeah.
But I guess you
Well,
also spend more
because when I
time
write
during the scripting phase,
the
so it sort
scripting
of
phase, yeah.
it evens out
Writing
in
the
some
script
way.
takes from 2 to 6 or 8 hours depending on what I want
Right.
to record.
Yeah.
If I have to try something out, like when I review a laptop, when I review a small NAC, when I review a distro, I will just use that distro with a notepad. I use my Galaxy S8 with a stylus, and I
Oh,
just
yep.
jot down stuff as I'm trying things out, and then I just collate all of that, and then I write something. And when I write the script, I know which parts I'm gonna say facing the camera, and
Mhm.
which parts I'm gonna put B-roll over. Which means that the parts that I'm gonna put B-roll over, I can just like grab my smartphone and read that. And as long as you read
Sure.
it with enough emphasis, it just feels okay.
Mm.
You can tell that I'm reading something,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't feel super different from when I'm just recording myself facing the camera.
How do
And
you
so that shaves off basically half the time.
how do you handle your script? Like, do you have it on like a teleprompter on a screen somewhere? Like, what do you do with it?
It's on Nextcloud Notes, and I
Mhm.
have it on my smartphone.
Do you have that
I
just
just
sitting
read
behind
it
the
from the
camera?
yeah. I have it in my hand
Oh,
generally.
okay. Yeah.
That's why you only see one hand or the other moving because the other one is
Oh.
underneath the camera with the phone. And so
Yeah.
either I memorize the thing that I want to say,
Mhm.
and I just say it facing the camera, or I just read it off the Nextcloud Notes when I know it's something that's going to be covered with B-roll.
Oh, okay. That
And
makes
so all the
sense.
audio has the same levels because I'm in the exact same spot with the microphone sitting in the exact same position. Uh, but everything that I know I'm not going to be looking at the camera at, why would I
Mm.
try and stumble and fail and re-record if I know it's just going to be like hidden? You're not going to
Mm.
see my face, so I might as well read it.
Huh. That makes sense.
And
Well,
yeah, this really gained me like, I don't know, 30 minutes per video or something
yeah.
when I started doing that.
But you also lose so much time in the
Ah,
other
yeah.
planning
Well,
phase.
yeah,
So like you
absolutely.
gain
Yeah.
this time, but you also lose in other places.
Yeah.
Either way, like you spend a lot of time on. How much time do you think you spend on each video? You would say,
On a
just on an
news
average.
video, I would say like maybe 4 or 5 hours
Yep.
in total. Because well, there's just the reading all the RSS feeds, like
Yeah. Yeah.
writing small paragraphs for each thing, and the recording goes extremely fast, and the
Mhm.
editing is also super fast because it's basically automatic. Like you put like a background, you put the article, you
Yeah.
make it scroll, and then you move on to the other one. It's super easy. For other videos, it's more like 8 hours. I'd say 8 to 10 hours, depending on what you have to test, to try, and to
Right,
record.
right. If you're doing a distro review or you're
Yeah,
looking at hardware, yeah, that
distro
makes
or
sense.
laptop review, it's gonna be like 10 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
for a more like opinion piece, it's gonna be 6 to 8 hours.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess a big chunk of that time is the script writing. Because when I'm like,
Yeah.
most of my time is on the research, like the script writing or the note taking and whatever you want to call it. That's probably only like, maybe at most an hour on most videos. But then the research is probably like another, like a mid. If it's something simple, like it's just I'm looking at a blog post or whatever, that's usually an hour, but it'll go longer than that. I would say overall, yeah, probably about the same for most of my content. But if it's something simpler, like if it's something where it's purely just my opinion on something, like, for example, I'm getting a lot of these stupid comments with people not understanding what the word stable means.
Oh yeah.
So I talked about Debbie and Sid today, and I said Debbie and Sid is unstable, and it's just like, yes, because that's what it is. Stable can mean a stable environment, or a stable as in doesn't crash, and things like that. They usually happen relatively quickly. But when it's something like the thing I covered the other day with the Microsoft Pluton coprocessor, which on Lenovo systems is locking out Linux installs. There was a bunch of different articles I wanted to read on that. I wanted to go and dig into what that coprocessor was. That one took a bit longer because the way I saw a lot of people approaching that, whenever Microsoft is involved in anything, or Red Hat is involved in anything, or it's slowly becoming canonical involved in it as well, it's just instantly, this is bad, not really considering what's actually happening. And I actually want to dig into that and make sure that people have if you want to hate it, go ahead. That's totally fine. But I
But
want you
at
to
least you
hate
have
it.
the fact.
I want you to hate it for the why it's actually bad, not just
It's not
because
because it's Microsoft or Red Hat. It's because they did something bad, and you should hate it. But or you consider it bad, and you want to hate it for that.
Yeah.
But it's not just because it's Microsoft or Google or whatever. But people have knee-jerk reactions a lot. And I was gonna say in the Linux community, but I think it's everywhere nowadays. Like people just react instantly to something. They just make their opinion in a tenth of a second, and they won't budge from that ever. So that's you can see it in the YouTube comments.
I've noticed it's mostly good. I think if you structure your content in a healthy way that sort of fosters good discussion, it tends to lead to people who want to have good discussions getting involved in that. But you're always going to have the people who either have a bad day and want to just leave an angry comment, or I guess there's someone new who wants to come in, who wants to sort of explain whatever it is that they is their passion project for today. But I don't know, how's that like for you? Like, your channel is much bigger than mine is. What is your comment section generally like? Do you read the comments, actually? Is a more important question.
I do read all comments. I don't answer every single one of them anymore. I used to, but now I just can't.
It's
so
not
when I
manageable.
see something that I agree with, I just drop that little heart. And when there is something that is utterly, factually super wrong and might even be detrimental for others, I answer that. When there's something super positive with a good idea, I try to answer that as well. And everything in the middle, I will just either like or ignore. My comment sections are generally okay. It's mostly, it evolves over time. Like when you first publish the video, in the first maybe 6 or 7 hours, you mainly only get your subscribers commenting. And so it's generally very positive. They're like, hey, great video, even though they didn't even watch it yet. But hey, great video. It's been published in a minute. But yeah, great video.
I always get someone who comments first on every video.
Yeah, or first, or I even get the second and third ones and whatever. But it's okay. It's fine. It's like,
that's cool.
Do that. I'm okay. And after a while, when YouTube starts recommending the video to other people, then you start to see the tone of the comments shift somewhat. Depends on the topic, obviously, but the more the video is up, the more chance there is that people are going to be like really, really detrimental or insulting or negative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have many insulting comments on myself or my person or the
Oh, lucky
quality of the
you.
video itself, but the content, yeah. Some people are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. What's your experience? You haven't tried that really. You don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Yeah.
generally happens after like the initial age, even sometimes after the first 24 hours of publication.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. Well, your content's not really focused about you as a person. It's more
No.
focused on, actually, let's, we're going to see what your latest video is. Pop West Special and why. Okay, I take back what I said. This video is specifically about you.
Yeah,
Let's
this
go to
one
the previous
specifically.
one.
Yeah. That was a
um,
Linux news,
that
and
was,
yeah,
yeah,
it's generally opinion pieces, but
yeah,
it's not like, hey, look at me, I'm doing this.
yeah.
It's generally more like this is what I think about something, but
Mm-hmm,
it's not like I do this way. It's not my person, it's my opinion, and so
mm-hmm.
people attack that opinion, but they don't attack my person.
Yeah, that
Well,
makes sense.
generally, anyways. Some do,
Mm.
but
Well, people also like there seems to just be people who want to just jump onto like it's one thing to not like the video, like whatever, go ahead. That's fine. If you
yeah,
think that I've
it's
said
okay.
something wrong, go ahead. It's when you just jump on like the person themselves, like you don't actually have anything to say about the content. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this about you is bad. Like I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
like I don't
Yeah.
care. Go
I hate
away.
your voice. Oh, your t-shirt is too small. Oh, I don't like your plants. Cool, dude.
I don't know why they wouldn't like your plant. Your plant's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know, but so some people do. Or like, oh no, another neck beard or whatever.
Oh
Or
yeah,
your left eyebrow moves more than your right eyebrow. Or this really happened, by the way.
mm-hmm.
This is a real comment that happens often.
Yep.
But yeah, it's okay. I don't take it personally anymore. When I started, like a single negative comment could ruin my week. Like
Yep.
I was like, oh no, what did I do? I suck. Like people are gonna stop watching now. It's terrible. Nowadays, I'm like, okay, well, you don't like it, you don't like it. You
Yeah.
disagree, you disagree. It's okay. And if you're willing to have a constructive discussion about this, we can do that in the comments. And
That's
if you're just here to attack and
mm,
insult, well, I'm just going to ignore the comment, and it's okay.
that's something I've definitely been working on. Like early on they tend to get to me, and there are some that still do. It's not the comments that do get to me aren't the ones that people think are the ones that get to me. Like it's not, oh, your opinion's wrong about this. Like, if I'm wrong about something and
Yeah.
I'm like legitimately wrong about it, great, please tell me. I'm not going to tell people what it is that annoys me because then they'll specifically go for that.
They'll do it.
Never show weakness on the internet. But I have been. I think the thing that's helped me actually deal with that is, actually trying to get outside again and just get away from the internet because
Yeah.
I've slowly been working on getting hobbies outside of my computer, outside of content creation, because it's not particularly healthy to be inside all the time. So
No, absolutely not.
that's a
Yeah.
big reason why I've started, getting back into working out again. I'm a big fan of golf as well, so I want to do some more golf when it's not raining and I can be outside. But I think that's a big, getting yourself interested in things outside of the channel, not staring at your analytics all the time. It's gonna help out with your mental situation in that regard.
No, absolutely. And this is also why I don't work on my videos more than like 5 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm going YouTube full time. I try to have like 3 or 4 hours of me time in the afternoon or in the morning to just like watch a video, go outside, go for a run, meet a friend, and just drive around and go somewhere, go to the beach, whatever. But yeah, I was very afraid when I started doing YouTube only that I would just completely lock myself inside because well, you have your computer, you have videos to make, you have your work, and then you want to game maybe on that computer or on your Steam Deck or on your
Do
TV,
you
whatever.
split up your like hobby computer and your work computer, or is it all on the same computer?
They used to be so I do not use my desktop computer to game anymore because once I'm done working, I just cannot be in that room
okay.
again.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
good.
no, I don't want to be here again. I don't want to be sitting in front of that screen. I've done that for like 4 hours. So
Yep.
I only game on the Steam Deck these days because the desktop is just way more powerful and it's a way better experience for a lot of games, but I just don't want to.
Yeah, that's
I
for the
should
best.
probably have another gaming computer. Maybe I'll do that with SteamOS when it's released. SteamOS 3 is released. Maybe I'll build like a Steam console that I put under my TV, and so when I want to game, I game on that.
Mhm.
But we'll see how that goes when they release it and how well that works.
Yeah, that's definitely like right now I'm renting a room in my mate's house, and it's great because it's not as tiny as the last place I was at, so I actually can get out of my room, but I have all of my computer stuff in here. So when I'm working, I'm in here. When I'm gaming, I'm in here. When I'm sleeping, I'm in here. The only time, like for a while, the only times I was really getting out because I still do have a job. So basically, it was going to work, which doing YouTube stuff all day and then going to work, it's fine for a while, but you realize after a while, like, wait, I'm working like 70-hour weeks, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I did for like 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I just could not take it anymore. So something had to go. And honestly, if the channel hadn't been like that successful, well, it's not like an insane viral
Sure.
growth or whatever. It's not like LTT, but it's enough for me to make a living. And if that point hadn't been reached, I would probably have just like stopped making videos or just
Mm-hmm.
made like one each week or one every 2 weeks because I just could not maintain that rhythm anymore. I had no weekends. I saw my friends like once a month. I never got out of the house except to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I was just completely stressed all the time because I had so many things to do. I could not focus at work because I knew that I had a video I had to work on at the end of the day. And in the weekends, like Saturday, I woke up at 8 and I started working on all the videos to prepare them to have less work to do on the rest of the week. It was just like too much. It was too much.
That's one of the
And so yeah,
things.
now the rhythm is just way better.
That's one of the things that I've been much better. I was pretty bad at this when I was going through university, but since then, I don't tend to work on the channel on the weekend because I don't work full time. I've got more time during the week to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I can fit everything in Monday to Friday. So if I want to do whatever it is I want to do on the weekend, maybe I want to go up to my parents' place for the weekend and just get away from my house. That I can do. There was a time where when I was doing uni and I was working and doing the channel, it gets to the point where it feels like every time you get to the end of the week, the next week is starting again, and there's never a period where you can have a reasonable break. So giving yourself, like minimum, give yourself at least one day and let that be your rest day where you don't do anything. Don't check your analytics. Don't, check your emails, whatever it is. Just find some time to chill. It will make everything go much, much smoother. Preferably find 2 days. 2 days is quite nice.
2 days better. Because that's what I'm trying to do these days. I'm trying to not work on Saturdays, and I'm mostly succeeding. But and I try to not look at Twitter. I try to not look at analytics. I just
I'm really bad at those things.
We'll see on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough. Like I'm having a huge Twitter detox recently because with everything that's happening, I just got way overexcited. Like not on the Linux stuff, on the politics and abortions and whatever. And I'm very, very annoyed at these topics, and so I started getting into Twitter fights with a lot of people that I don't know, that I will never meet, and that I will never convince that they are obviously very wrong. So okay, it's okay. I just decided, you know what? We're gonna talk about Linux, about positive things in there, and we're gonna stop trying to intervene in discussions that you can never convince anyone about. And that has made a ton of difference on my mental health. Like I am not stressed. I am not angry. It's just so much better. And sometimes I read a tweet and I'm like, oh, this person is so wrong. Oh, you should answer that. And I'm like, no, he's right. He's wrong. He can be wrong. It's okay. Maybe he's not. let's not talk about it.
One thing
And
I've
then it's
gotten
forgotten in like 2 seconds.
one thing I've gotten a lot friendlier with recently is the block button. It's a
Yeah, me
nice
too.
button. I like it.
Yeah, block and mute, like those are. I've seen a lot of use recently. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of got over my arguing with people about politics phase a couple of years ago, and there are times when it like bubbles back up. Like there are certain people that annoy me. I'm like, you know what? No, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
We spent so much time like arguing with people who are never. Look. I don't even know if they're actual people, considering how good some of the chatbots are nowadays. I could be arguing with a bot. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just time wasted because if you argue with a friend about politics, then
Yeah.
you can have a constructive discussion. But arguing online with 140 characters to try to carry like a specifically complex point of view about religion, politics, like body image, like gender, whatever, it's just not possible. And so you're gonna leave out some details or some information to fit in that space, and then the people in front of you is gonna call you out because you left out something, and they're gonna attack the little thing that's missing.
Yeah.
You're gonna answer that, and then they're gonna attack the other little thing that's missing. And it's never gonna go anywhere. If you want to have conversations like these, like Twitter is just not the place. It's not the place.
Well, what it devolves into is basically sort of gotchas. Like one person will say something, and then someone they'll either reply being like, "This is why you're wrong," or "This is more annoying." I don't know why Twitter even has this as a feature. They'll quote tweet it, so it like breaks the comment thread as well. So like it's not even easy to follow at that point.
Yeah, and they're gonna be like, I got you on that little technicality because the word you used can be interpreted in 2 different ways, and I choose to interpret it in the other way, and so you're wrong. You're like, yeah, okay, dude, okay, no, it doesn't work like that. And so, well, it just helps to just not focus on that anymore. It's just much, much better.
Yeah, quote tweet is a great
and the analytics is hard to not look at, though.
It is very difficult to not look at. Especially when, you've just uploaded the video, you're like, is this in the range that I have realized that if a video's in the range that it should be in like the first 2 hours, it's gonna be in that range. Just ignore it from now on. The number will keep going up. It's fine.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I look for it like the first 30 minutes to see just how well it's positioned in terms of the last 10 videos. If it's in the like 1 to 6 or 7 range, I'm like, okay, it's good. Because basically for my 10 last videos, they're then like such a small differences in terms of view. Like in the first 30 minutes, the first one must be at, I don't know, like 3.5 thousand views, and the last one must be at 2.7.
Yeah.
So if you're in that range, you're good. Even if, as long as you're not like the last one, I'm not worried. And then I look back like 1 or 2 hours after that. And as you said, if it's in the right range, I'm like, okay, that's good. It's going to do well. Let's forget about it.
And then you
just look at the comments from time to time.
And you look at it and it's a 10. And you're like,
oh yeah,
God,
that's the worst.
The channel is over. I'm ruined.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh no, what happened? And do people not like the topic? Should I change the title? Should I change the thumbnail? No, it's too late. It's too late. You can't do anything. It's 10 out of 10. You can't save it. It's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead. It's just not gonna work. And I mean, some videos that I upload, I'm like, I know it's not gonna do well because I know it. It's something that interests me. I want to talk about it, but I know people are not going to be super interested about it. It's okay. I accept it. But sometimes you're like, oh, this one should be an interesting one. And then you're like, oh, people don't give a crap.
Those are the weirdest ones, because let's see, what did I do recently? Those ones did relatively well.
That's my last one.
I'm not seeing anything that surprisingly underperformed. Well, I saw one that I knew wasn't going to do super well. It's just something I wanted to address. Like, I talked about, like, what the purpose of code licensing is, which, there's going to be a small subset of people who actually care about that, but it's something that I particularly want to talk about. The weirder ones to me are the ones that do, like, exceptionally well, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that, well, it's not a secret. I haven't discovered anything incredible, but basically, if your title or your thumbnail implies negativity towards something, the video is going to do well. Like if you say, why people hate this, why I think this is not great. Even if you just say, I stopped using that, Even if the video says,
Okay,
you know what,
yeah,
it's
if
a
that's what it
fantastic
is,
thing,
yeah.
but I found something even better. Even if it just says, I stopped using that, people are going to click on it because they want to see someone crap on something else. That's generally what happens.
Yup.
The video I made about the open source licenses also did terribly. It's like one of the worst videos I made
Which is
in the
hilarious
past
considering the space
like
we're
1
in.
year. Yeah, it's really weird. And laptop reviews, hardware reviews also generally don't do well on my channel. I love doing them, but they don't work well.
I think that would be something that is like very particular about the device.
Yeah, if you don't have like something, it's super cheap or it's extremely powerful or it has like an insanely weird Linux version out of the box. Like if it's a Steam Deck, of course it's working. But,
Yeah.
But if it's like your run-of-the-mill laptop, like next month I'm gonna get like 3 devices to review two from Slimbook and 1 from Star Labs.
Okay.
And I know that these, when I review them, if I don't find a specific angle that makes them very interesting, I know they're not going to perform that well. I'm still
This
going to
is
do
the
them because I
worst
love
laptop
doing
you'll
them.
ever see.
Exactly. And this would work absolutely well. I'm pretty sure. If I said like this Slimbook thing is just horrible, boom, like 80,000 views.
If it's either the greatest the weird thing is that doesn't usually do as well.
Doesn't even work. Yeah.
There are some things where it's like weird particular things. Like if I don't know what would even work. Like I know there are some edge cases where you can get that to function. Like I can't even think of anything off the top of my head. But
when it's unexpected, like
yeah,
people would assume,
that's
for
a good way to put
example,
it,
like
yeah.
let's say people would assume that on Linux, let's say, I don't know, Krita is the best drawing program and painting program. And you say, this is the best painting program, and it's not Krita. Like, people are going to be like, what?
Actually, that's
and
a
they're
good
going to
point,
click on that.
Yeah, that's good.
But if you do it on a laptop, I don't think that's going to work because it's so subjective. People need to want to look at laptops. You need to not have used that tagline before because it doesn't work.
But if it's a bad laptop...
But if it's a bad laptop, people are going to watch it because they want to know what's bad about it and make sure that they can either disagree vehemently with you or just be like, haha, somebody made something that's bad. It works. But I try not to fall into that too much because, well, first it's pure clickbait, and it's a bit annoying as well. I think for people to only have negativity all the time, like this is bad, and then the video says, you know what, it's not that bad. So yeah,
something I've been trying out recently is sort of titling in a way that grabs people's attention in like things that they should hate. Like this video did really well. Like when Lennart Pottering left Red Hat to join Microsoft, people don't like Lennart. Yeah. But if I can sort of like, I want that video to be a overall positive video and sort of explain, explain like who he is, like what he's done over the years, like the positive work that he's done. Like I don't know why people don't like Lennart, to be honest, but I know that if I can sort of make it seem like the video is going to be negative and then sort of bring people back in like a hopefully let them leave with a positive impression of the topic, that also tends to sort of do well.
Yeah, that's the same thing I did, for example, with my video on Electron. I said like why people don't like, why people hate Electron, and I start by you know what? I even started the video by why developers like Electron. So it's like there are some positives as well to that, and then I explain what the negatives are, and I explain my opinion on it.
Yeah.
But the title can be a bit negative, but the whole video isn't. It's just not just dumping and hitting something like this is bad, this is bad. I did the same thing with Ubuntu when I was like, I've stopped using Ubuntu. I don't recommend Ubuntu anymore. Or why people hate Ubuntu. There's been 2 videos like that. But it's not overwhelmingly negative. It's just explaining what people think is bad about this thing, what I think about those opinions, and that's about it. So the title just works with the content of the video, but it still grabs people's attention because obviously it's a bit negative and people like that.
Yeah. I think one thing that people are very, I don't know if they're jumpy towards or like really hesitant about nowadays is clickbait. Like I remember when clickbait sort of first started being a term that people were using. That was back in the days where you would have, it would be an article, it would be like top 10 celebrity nip slips or something like that, and then there'll be nothing in the article about that. Or you'd have a YouTube video where they would have like some girl in a bikini and it had nothing to do with the video. Like that, I think that's like objectively clickbait. But I've done things where, it's not clickbait, it's just maybe some exaggeration, for example, or like, or maybe I don't say exactly what the video is going to be.
It's attention grabbing. Yeah, it's attention grabbing. It's not clickbait if you leave some mystery from the title and the thumbnail. If you say, I like this, but ... this is not clickbait. If you say, I hate this thing, and you don't say what the thing is, this is not clickbait. Clickbait is when you write a title or a thumbnail and say something that has nothing to do with the content of the video. If I say, this is the greatest laptop I've ever used, and then the video is about a mediocre, like, weird laptop, and my conclusions are like, it's not that good, this is clickbait, If I say, I found a way to get Microsoft Office 365 running on Linux in one click, and then the video is like 30 minutes long, I'm gonna use a VM. That's clickbait, okay. But if you disagree with the opinion, or if you think that I left out a specific part just to grab your attention, this is not clickbait. And people have a hard time like understanding this. Or some people do, at least.
Yeah, it's always like, whenever I'm talking about this, I think most people understand it, but there's always these like, the small, loud number of people, and these are the people that tend to like, it shouldn't be the people that grab your attention. There are so many people just being positive about the content. Like, you look at the like to dislike ratio, it's like 99%, 98%, but there's this one guy, and no matter how much, like, you say it doesn't bother you, there's still, like, a little part of your brain where it's like,
absolutely,
this person doesn't like it, I've done something wrong.
Yeah, and this person doesn't like it, but just doesn't say, I'm sorry, I didn't enjoy the video. He says, this is clickbait. I watched the whole thing and you never did this. And that's not the definition of clickbait. What are you saying? And you feel compelled to answer that person, but you shouldn't, because they're going to keep doing it if you do.
I love the, I'm unsubscribing because of this.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed this, but you can't just on desktop, but on mobile, if you click on someone's name, you can see their comment history. A lot of the time, there's people who haven't commented.
I never saw that.
I don't know who you are, man. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if it's a name that... So some of the names in the comments I recognize. There are some people that I interact with regularly. And so I'm like, hey, I know this person. If someone like that's been following the channel for 3 or 4 years says, I'm sorry, dude, I'm unsubscribing, I just can't take it anymore, you're doing this and this and this wrong, that's going to affect me. If I see like Alpha 2223 with no user pick saying, I'm unsubscribing because too many ads, well, goodbye, dude, it's okay. Like, you can install AdBlock if you want, I'm not going to cry, but if you want to unsubscribe, unsubscribe. I don't know you. It would be like entering into a shop and saying, I'm never shopping there anymore, and going out. The cashier is going to look at you like, who are you?
I know that you have the Linode sponsorship in your videos quite often. How do you tend to approach sponsors? Like, what is...
I never approach them.
No, I don't mean not like that. I mean, like, having them in your videos. Like, how do you... Like, do you have any rules you set out for, like, the way you're going to integrate them into your videos?
Well, I have like a very strict rule about the sponsors I agree to work with, which is either I have to use the product or I have to try the product enough to make sure that it's good. I will never accept like any basic VPN dude or hey, look, review our gaming chair and we sponsor your video. This I will never do. It has to have a link with the content I make, not specifically the video, but with the channel at least. So it has to be privacy related, Linux related, open source related, or be an app that runs on Linux. I get approached by tons of people, like specifically a company that I won't name, which has like tons of products for video editing, stuff like that. And they're like, hey, do you want to... You probably know which one it is. And I'm like, hey, I'm happy to work with you if you have a Linux version. And they never answer back because they don't. But they still come back often. And I just select the sponsors this way. And then I don't necessarily want to have a link between the content itself and what the sponsor offers. It's better if there is one, but I don't think that's necessary. Like, I think people who watch the videos have like an open mind about various topics. They're interested in Linux, they're interested in open source, in various applications, in tech in general, in privacy. So if I talk about privacy in a video that discusses open source licenses, I don't think that's not a fit. I think that still works. And that allows me to have much flexibility in terms of where I place each sponsor, if I can like switch out some topics from time to time. After that, I tend to propose all the topics that I have to Linode first, because they have been the first sponsor that I ever had.
Yep.
They pick the ones they're interested in. And then I divide the rest of the topics with the rest of my sponsors that I have. It's all regular sponsors nowadays. I very rarely have like one-offs, like if somebody dropping in and say, I'm sponsoring just one video. They generally go 3 to 6 videos at least. And the ones I have, like there's Safing, there's Linode, there's Kernel Care. These guys have been here for like 2, 3 years, 4 years in the case of Linode. They're really recurring sponsorships, and I don't think they're going anywhere. Like at least if they are, they're not telling me. But I think they're gonna keep sponsoring the channel, because I'll be honest, I don't charge enough for these compared to what I should. But that also allows me to have basically one sponsor for each video, which means like in the end, I think it's more interesting for me financially to do that. And also, if a video doesn't perform extremely well, like the sponsor is not like, oh no, this video didn't work, I'm not for that, because they have a baseline number of views that works all the time. But I will try to stay very strict about what I talk and what I don't talk about. I don't do fully sponsored videos anymore. I only did 2, one for Start Page and one for Proton, and people just do not like them. Like you can make the whole objective review, even point out some negative things, but people are going to say you only did that because you got paid. And either you don't say you got paid, but that's illegal, or you say you got paid and people just do not pay attention to what you say because he got paid. So obviously he can't be objective. And I understand that, and so I don't do them anymore. It just doesn't feel, even when I write the script, I feel that it just doesn't feel right. You feel like there's a constraint on what you're writing, because you're like, hey, they're still giving you money for this. You can't be that negative. And you try to be as objective as possible, but at the end of your brain, at the back of your brain, there's something telling you like, you should try to be like nice a little bit. And I just don't like that feeling, so I don't do it anymore.
There was one company that came to me. They were like, hey, we'll send you this laptop, but it's going to be a paid review. Like, nope, go away. Not happening.
No, not happening. I'm happy to review it for free.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an honest review, but I'm not getting paid for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
yeah.
I sort of approach to say, I don't really have sponsored on the main channel right now. I have the Linode affiliate. But I would approach it basically in the exact same way. Like, that seems like a really good way to do it. I don't really think it's a big deal about like sponsor location. Like, some people are really touchy about like having it at the start, or they'll only do ones that are at the end, for example.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
But now, I've said this before, but if you want to pay me to do stupid stuff, the podcast, I have no morals. I will sell anything here. This is the show where
mattresses. Mattresses.
I've said it before.
Underwear. I don't care.
I've said it before. If someone wants me to sell fleshlights, I'll happily do it. That's fine. Now, the main channel, I have morals there. Here, I don't care. So, Chinese game key resellers, or like, no, NFTs I won't do. And maybe the Chinese key resellers I won't do, because I won't do things that are like openly scams or like pyramid schemes or whatever. But like, you know, if there was a company that came, I wish they came to me like recently. There was a company that wanted me to sell coffee. It's like,
yeah, why not?
Sure.
Not on the channel, but
that was going to be on the main channel. The only reason I didn't is they didn't ship to Australia. Like,
yeah,
I would happily do this. I like coffee, but you don't ship to my country, and I can't taste it.
There's been I've been approached by a company that also sold coffee. Maybe it was the same, and I'm like, why not? I mean, people who use Linux probably also drink coffee. Like, they could be interested. and I would try it, except I hate coffee. I find it disgusting.
Yeah.
And so I'm not the best person to talk about it because I've already said in a few videos I hate coffee and I don't like it. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, hey, this coffee is really good. Even if I don't like coffee, I find this amazing. No, that's just not believable.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, no, sorry, just it's not something for me, so I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
And
that's
this means
totally
that I
fair.
just left out a ton of money on the table. Like I've refused tons of VPNs because I just don't trust some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust any of them basically. I've refused like tons of like mobile games. I've been approached by Clash of Clans, by Raid Shadow Legends, of course.
Oh.
At some point, I had two different advertising agencies that approached me for one video about Raid Shadow Legends. I was like, I could just make one sponsored video and tell each agency it was for them and get paid twice for it. But I was like, nah, come on, don't do it. That sucks.
Oh. I
But yeah, I've refused a ton of weird things like
mm.
reviewing, I don't know, like robotic like mailboxes that you put in front of your house that you can open remotely so people can drop your packages in them.
Okay.
Like, I don't even live in a house. What am I going to review that for? There's so many things that have nothing to do with the things I do. And I mean, if you're Linus Tech Tips, you can get away with having a sponsor for a giant Jackery battery pack that costs $8,000.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like you can do it. They have enough views that it can. Even if they sell two of them at the end of the video, it's worth it. But on my channel, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be like, yeah, take anybody, anything. I don't care. Like bring it in, as long as it's not shady or scammy. No, I want to have stuff that is related to what I do or that I can use. So yeah, it means that I'm not making as much money as I could, but it means I can sleep at night. So that's nice.
When you have companies send you stuff, do you have the same problem of them sending you a lot of landfill? You know, stickers, bottles, shirts, all of this stuff.
Oh yeah, and they're like, I don't know why they do this because do they expect you to just like cover your own laptop or the background of video with the stickers or wear their shirts? Like, no. It's yeah, thank you for this. It's goodies, I guess. Why not? But no, I don't need this. I'm gonna send it back to you afterwards. In most cases, like I'm gonna resend you the T-shirt and the stickers as well as the thing that you sent me to review. It's just weird.
Linode sent me a shirt like ages back. I only kept it because it was a fairly comfy shirt. It was a good workout shirt, if nothing else.
Yeah. I don't have. They never send me a Linode shirt.
I think I got one from Vivaldi as well at one point. I don't remember why. I think I was the only guy in the Linux space that didn't openly hate Vivaldi.
Oh. Well, yeah, I've never been like positive about Vivaldi, but I refuse to do a dedicated video about it. That they wanted me to do a dedicated video, not paid for. They were just like, hey, I think it was when Manjaro KDE added Vivaldi as the default browser. And they said, in the wake of these news, would you like to review the browser entirely, etc.? And I said, I just did a video like comparing most browsers at the time, and yeah, I'm just not that interested. I don't think Vivaldi is bad, but for me, it's just not a browser I'd want to use because there's just too much stuff, and that's not what I need my browser for. But
what are you running right now?
I don't think I ate. Oh, I'm Firefox all the way, everywhere. Yeah, but it's not the best browser there is. Absolutely not. But I don't want to run anything based on Chromium because I just do not like that Google monopoly on the web rendering engines. I'm stupid like that, so
I've accepted the monopoly. That look, Google can take over the world. It's fine. I won't run Chrome, but I will. I'll run Brave.
Yeah, not Chrome. Yeah. Well, just because you accepted the monopoly doesn't mean you accept spyware.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sticking to Firefox, and unless there's really like a huge performance gap or something, or some websites that I use regularly that stop working with Firefox, I will stick with it. If tomorrow like Chromium has an update that makes it like twice as fast and it does weird things that Firefox can never match, then yeah, okay, sure. At that point, I'm not gonna shoot myself in the foot every day. I'm gonna switch. But for now, I don't think the difference is just good enough for me to move on.
Well, the web is sort of over the years, it's gotten a lot more a lot more consistent across things. So there was a time, Internet Explorer was the king, and because of that, you had sites designed around IE6 and IE7. Like, there are still companies right now that have internal intranets based around it, and it only works in that browser. But when we're talking about the general web, the main problem we had over a lot of years was HTML. It was mainly HTML and JavaScript were not consistent between every browser rendering engine. Nowadays, it mostly is. There's still some like tiny tweaks you have to do to make sure everything's all good, but as for like general things, you don't usually notice a difference. Like, the difference that exists now isn't fundamental compatibility. It's, hey, does this actually handle video decoding properly? Things like that.
Yeah, or is this browser able to display rounded corners or something or not? And like I've worked for the past like 11 years as a product owner, project manager in basically only web stuff.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of mobile apps, but it was just websites, mobile websites. I started right at the beginning when smartphones started to be popular. And so I was right in the middle of, we need to make mobile websites that don't suck. And so I started doing that. I made web TVs with video. I made like full company websites and with various technologies. But I didn't make them, but I worked with developers who made them. And yeah, over the years, as IE faded out, and you just notice that developers are not like shouting against a specific browser anymore. The only one they universally seem to hate is Safari Mobile, because it has some quirks and it's not updated often, and it just like doesn't support a few things. And it's not that it doesn't support, it's that it has weird behaviors that other browsers don't have. So you have to make specific tweaks for Safari a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's not as hampering. It's not something that's gonna drag you down as much as IE did back in the day. It's just like a few lines of code to just tweak how it works on this specific user agent. It's not horrible.
I was in a really weird spot with smartphones. So the iPhone came out, 2006?
8, I think, 2008.
Something like that. Whatever. I was in primary school when that came out. So I was in, I think, mid-high school before smartphones actually started, I guess, becoming a popular thing. So I mostly miss that being a problem. And my sister's a couple of years younger than me, and she was starting to she was in that group, that first group that sort of had smartphones throughout the entirety of high school. And now I have my younger nieces and nephews who are 7 and they've got smartphones already. And it's really, really strange to me, how that's changing the way that people actually interact with each other.
Yeah, well, my first phone I had when I was 16. I just started med school. I started med school at 16, and my first phone was a foldable clappy thing with just the regular basic cell phone. It was not a smartphone at all. And my first smartphone was the iPhone 3G, I think, which I got in 2009, I think, something like that, or 2010. And since then, I only had smartphones, but I grew up without a phone, not without a smartphone. I grew up without a phone. We did stuff without phones, we used landlines. And nowadays, I don't even have a landline. Why would I? It serves no purpose. And it's weird to see kids that grow up and have never known a world that didn't have the internet, didn't have phones, didn't have smartphones. And yeah, it's just really changing things a lot. You can see it in the way of interacting, in the way of planning things out. When you wanted to go to a friend, you didn't have a phone. You have a phone. You just called. You were like, okay, I'm going to be coming at this hour. Okay, good. And then you had to note the address, look on a map where it was. Okay, I'm taking a left, then a right, then a second left. And then I need to ask him for the code for his building, because there's a code to enter the first front door. And I have to have that beforehand, because if I don't, when I'm before the door, I have no way of calling him to ask him, how do I open the door? You had to plan things out. And this, I think, worked in a lot of ways, and not just for planning a trip, or you had to plan things out beforehand, before calling someone, before visiting someone, before going anywhere. Nowadays, you just slot your phone in your pocket, and if you're lost, you Google Maps, you call somebody, you text them. You basically have something that saves you from making mistakes.
Mhm.
And you didn't have that before. And I think that changes the way that people interact or just generally experience the world in general. And I think it's way better now, honestly.
Yeah.
People will spit on smartphones. They're going to be, smartphones are destroying human communication. No, they're just changing it. It's not
Mm.
worse. It's just different.
I had a my first phone a little bit earlier than you had. I'll send you a picture of it. Here is what I had as my first phone. It's a Sony
Oh,
Ericsson
yeah.
J108i.
Nice.
It had, I
It
think it
still
had
looks good to this day.
yeah, it was a cool look,
Yeah.
cool little phone. I think it had like, I want to say it had like Snake pre-installed, maybe Tetris pre-installed. I was so this is weird considering how much of a techie I am now. I was so late to the smartphone game. So my sister, she had I think her first phone was like a Galaxy S2. So the way my mum did it is every time like her plan ran out, she would hand the phone down to either me or my sister. She got that phone. I don't think I got my first smartphone until maybe it was like the Galaxy S5 or something like that. Because
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
just saw
relatively late.
the concept of a smartphone. I was like, this is dumb. I have a laptop. Why would I want
Yeah.
I want a computer in my pocket? That's so stupid. And now I have this thing, which doesn't leave my side most of the time.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't grow up with a smartphone, it's easy to not envision the various things that you could do with thanks to 3 or 4G. Like just looking at a map, getting directions, like being able to just look something up really quickly without opening a laptop, booting it up, opening the browser, typing things. If you want to look at something on Wikipedia, confirm a date, confirm something, just enter an appointment on the go. But you didn't think about these things because you couldn't do them, so they didn't exist. And so you never really thought about them. And so if at the time, yeah, a lot of people thought that this phone is stupid. Why would you want to buy a smartphone? Like, have you seen how expensive they are? They were costlier than most laptops at the time. Because we weren't yet in the ultrabook period where everything is at least $1,000 if you want something good. It was like $500, or at least euros in France, 500 euros for a competent laptop. And so an iPhone costs 700 euros or 650. It was more expensive than a normal laptop. So of course people were going to ask questions like, why would I want to buy this? What does it do specifically that warrants this kind of money?
Yup.
And nowadays people will happily pay like $1,400 for the S20 Ultra with a pen, and it costs more than every other device they have in their house. They're gonna be like, oh, I want a non-expensive laptop. Like $1,000 is too much for a laptop, but their phone costs twice that.
I have
It's really
never
weird.
worn an expensive phone. So this is a Realme C5 from I think 4 years ago. It was $300 new, and that's as much as I want to pay for a phone.
Yeah. Well, I have the S21, but I bought it after the S22 release, so it was like $450 or something.
Yeah.
I tend to not buy the latest and greatest anymore, unless there's something that absolutely woos me, like sweeps me off my feet.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm spending $1,000 on a phone. It's just, I barely use the thing. I never call anyone. I text a little bit, but not that much. I use maps, and that's about it.
Maps.
Like YouTube Analytics and Twitter, and that's it. That's it. I don't need a super flagship to do that.
Do you remember how old you were when you first got an internet connection? Because I do.
I think I was like 10 or 11.
When do you reckon that was? Like, what year?
I was still living in a very, very small town. I don't know. I think it was in maybe in the 2000s something.
Okay.
Probably year 2000. No, it was after that. So 2002, I'd say.
Okay.
2002, 2003. And it was a 56K connection. It was with a 56K modem. Everybody had DSL at the time, but my parents were really, really late to the internet. So we had Minitel in France, which was our in-house solution, and that worked well enough, but it didn't age well.
I didn't get a connection until DSL was a thing. So when I was a like real young kid, I was living in this very rural town. Small place called Glenwood in Queensland. The nearest town was like 30 minutes away. My school had 50 students. It was a very, very small place. So if we wanted a connection out there, it would have had to have been dial up. My parents didn't know what a computer was. They didn't know what the internet was. They didn't care. I remember getting an internet connection when we moved back to South Australia. And I've told this story a bunch of times, but I'm going to tell it again. My cousin was set up the computer, because my cousin is a software engineer. He still is now. He set up the computer for us. We had this DSL connection. This was like 2006, early 2006. And he showed me this website. And he's like, this website is called YouTube. And you can watch videos here. I was like, you watch videos? On a computer?
What kind of videos?
About? This would have been like months after YouTube first came out. And yeah, that was how I got my first connection. And then, a year after that, I got addicted to playing RuneScape and was playing an MMO all the time, which is a problem. But that's a story for another time.
My experience has been really weird with the internet, because my parents got a computer when I was 9, I think. So it was like a long time ago, 25 years ago. And it was like super late. Everybody had computers, but my parents just didn't see the use. So they bought one, and it was supposed to have a modem. And at the time we had, in France, they distributed like CDs with installers that let you start the dial-up connection, and you had 3 minutes. You had like 33 minutes or 2 free hours with this thing. And so we stockpiled the CDs because we couldn't really use them because we didn't have a computer, but we knew we were getting one. My parents bought one, and it had a modem. The problem is the modem was disabled in the BIOS, and we did not know what a computer was or what a BIOS was. So the modem stayed disabled for about 2 years until I started experimenting and looking at stuff and getting interested in the computer. And at some point, I pressed F2 at startup, and I pressed it just to see what it was, and there was this scary blue screen, and I was like, modem disabled, what is that? And I enabled it, and then I inserted one of the CDs, and I just shouted in the house like, Mom, we've got internet! And she was like, you don't use it, it's gonna cost money! And so we finally grabbed some kind of subscription, which was like, I don't know, 10 hours per month. It just costed like 100 euros or something. It was extremely expensive. It was more expensive than having DSL. But my parents just didn't want that, so we had to use that. And after a while, that started my interest in computers, like tinkering and starting like looking at stuff, how it works, and trying to optimize things and playing some games. But yeah, I never really got into YouTube for a long time. For example, like I think the first videos I watched on YouTube, it must have been like 2010 or something. I never really used it a lot before I started the channel.
I think the thing that really got me like actually into watching videos and discovering what this was early days, like understanding what a YouTuber was before, people were getting paid. I think it was RuneScape guide videos, like leveling, efficient leveling or money making or something like that. I was just like, how do I do this well? And I guess for whatever reason, I decided to look it up there, and I started discovering just random channels. I think some of them might still exist, which is kind of crazy that there are still some people going from like that early.
Yeah, it's like, YouTube is 20 years now? 15, 20 years?
It's 2006 it started, so going on
16 years.
17 years,
Yeah. I don't know if I'll still be doing that I started like 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. I don't know if I'll still be doing YouTube in 12 years. Like, imagine doing videos for 12 years. I don't know. It's weird to even imagine.
Well, what made you want to go full-time in the first place?
The freedom. The freedom you have to organize your work. I've been working as a product owner for a while, and while it's a job I love, the evolution of that job I don't like. So basically, when you're a product owner or project manager, you become a manager. That's the logical step, and that's what I did. After 4 or 5 years, I became a manager, and I became chief product officer for a while as well at another company. So I had a team of about 12 people, I think, and I just hated that job. I didn't want to do that. Management just sucks for me. I hate it. It's you lose your skills because you can't practice them because you're not supposed to have like your hands in the technology. You're supposed to watch other people do it and make sure that they do it well. So after a certain point, you're trying to tell people how to do their job, but they're better at their job than you are. So it just feels weird. And you also end up only managing the problems. You can't really take credit for the success if you're an honest person, because the success comes from your team, not from you. You just help them achieve that, and you have to take credit for all the blame if something goes wrong. And every time something goes wrong, people are gonna go to see you, and so you only deal with negative things all the time. And I just didn't like that. So I decided to stop being a C-suite executive, blah blah blah. I don't know what the term is, but like what we'd call a director in France. I was a directeur produit, and I decided to go back to being chief product officer, to being like a regular basic product owner. And the problem is, after 3 years of that, I just got super tired of people telling me what to do, and you had to have an opinion. But it wasn't respected because, well, you're just a product owner. And so like, I don't think this is the right way to do this. I think like ergonomically this is bad, or I think that in terms of business, this is not super clear. And they're like, I don't care, we do this, and you apply it. And then you have to work on that project that you don't believe in and you don't like.
Right.
And so having that opportunity to move on to YouTube meant that first I could like tailor my weeks however I wanted. I can start at any time I want. If I don't want to work in the mornings, I have to. If I want to work up until midnight, I can. And there's nobody to stop me, basically. It's super fun. I can do whatever I want. I can take breaks whenever I want. And as long as it keeps like allowing me to make a living, there's no reason I would stop, because that's a job I love. Because there's also that component. It's just super fun. It's fun. You wake up, you're like, hey, I have this idea about this video. I'm going to work on it. And you start writing, you start recording, you do your things, you edit, and then you giggle stupidly at your little joke that you put. I like this one. And it's nice. I like it. It's just a fun job. And of course, like all jobs, sometimes you're like, I really do not want to edit videos today. But yeah, that's a job. But going full-time was just an opportunity to free myself from the regular, normal 9-to-5 job, which I really didn't want to do anymore, or at least I didn't want to do it in the function I occupied before. If YouTube stopped and I had to go back to a normal 9-to-5 job, I would probably change lanes completely. I would not go back to being a product owner. I would like, I don't know how you would say it, but I would completely change ways and learn something.
Do like some sort of career shift.
Exactly.
That makes sense. There was something I was going to say in there and I lost it. Oh, right. That level of freedom, it's great if you have the sort of discipline to lay out your day and decide when you're actually going to do stuff. But a problem that I've found, especially on days where I've gotten much better at this because I've forced myself to do it, but if you have that freedom, it's very easy to let time slip by from you. And something that's supposed to take an hour takes 2 hours, something supposed to take 2, takes 4. And even though you should have all this free time, if you don't have, at least for me, having some sort of schedule there, things tend to fall apart. But judging by the fact that you said you want to make sure you have time to yourself every day, I'm guessing that does help out with that. So you're like, this is when I'm going to stop. I'm going to do whatever else now.
Well, I don't work based on a number of hours. I work based on what I want to accomplish.
Right.
So I have per day. I know that I need to record the A roll for this one, write the script for the next one, edit this video, or write a Linux short and publish it, or just send the topics to the sponsors or whatever. I have that to-do list, and I need to accomplish that in the day. No matter when I start, when I end, but I need to have this done at the end of the day. So this lets me focus on being efficient on doing that, but it also allows me the freedom to start working when I want to start working. But it is tough to just get out of the couch, honestly. I work out, then I go home, I take a shower, and then generally I sit on the couch for 10 minutes just to relax a little bit before working. And sometimes this 5 to 10 minutes turn into 3 hours. Because you're like, hey, I like this thing. Oh, I'm watching a live stream. Legend playing Total War 3, and that's great. And then you're like, ah, God, it's noon. Oh no. And you look at your to-do list and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat first, and then I'm gonna start working. And then it's 2 p.m. and you're like,
Yep.
oh no.
Yep.
And then you're in a rush and you do things in a way that is not optimal. So it can be hard. And I try to force myself to not stay inactive for more than an hour. Like every time I just like lay down on the couch, if I still have something else to do, I put a timer. Right? Okay, I have a timer for an hour tops, and after this hour, I get up and I do something, because
Yep.
if I don't, I know the day's gonna like get away from me, and I'm gonna not do anything.
Yep. No, I absolutely know that feeling. There have been so many times where I know that like it might just be a short week. Maybe I got everything done a little bit early and there's only a little bit left. But, hey, this one of my mates is streaming, or like hey, maybe there's like a new video from someone. Maybe I'm going to watch that. Maybe I'm going to go for a walk, but maybe I'll go for a bit longer of a walk than I was planning to, which may not be a bad thing in that case, but when you've got stuff to do, but I'm of the same mindset where I try to get I do like a lot of the same thing. I don't know how people do what was it like? There are these like different like scheduling methods and like timing methods where you're like, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes. I'm going to do this for 30 minutes. I'm going to do that. Like, I can't do that. Like, that just doesn't work for me.
Now, my brain works on a task-based system. Like, I need to accomplish a task. It's not a matter of time. And that's also probably why I never really liked the 9 to 5, because sometimes you're just done. And you're like, I still have 2 hours, but what am I going to do here? I should go home. I should stop working. But you can't, because you're supposed to leave at 5. And my brain just works like that. I need to finish a task, and just working 30 minutes on the task might as well just not do it. If I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to start it at all.
That's why it's light manual labor, but that's why I kind of like manual labor. I work in a supermarket, I fill shelves. It's chill. It's not like, hard manual labor, like digging holes or whatever. But I show up, I do my thing, I have no responsibilities. If the work's not done, as long as I've done everything I need to do, it's not my problem.
Okay.
It's
you
fine.
Go home and you'll finish tomorrow. Yeah?
Yep.
And honestly, if I have to grab a real job after YouTube when I'm bored with it, or when YouTube doesn't work, or if my channel has a problem or whatever, I'll probably go do something manual as well. Because maybe, I don't know, like crafting tables or chairs or woodworking, or I don't know. It's something like you're producing something in the real world, and you can just focus on your work. You don't have specific responsibilities. You just need to be there to do the thing, and then you go home and you can forget all about it when you're home.
I think that's one of the things that because I don't, I see people who I have a mate who works in the mines. He goes there, he does his job. He's like a fly in, fly out worker, so he's there for like a week or 2 weeks, and then he comes back. And I can see like the level of relaxation that happens from just, I'm done with work now. You just like kick off your boots, you're just chilling, do whatever else you want. And I kind of see that with like my parents were both. My dad was a 9 to 5 factory worker. My mum, she was a aged care worker doing basically the same sort of schedule. And I can see that like even if you don't enjoy the job, there's some level of like, maybe I guess it feels nice after doing something you don't like to just chill out and just relax. I think that's something you miss by. It's good that you enjoy what you're doing, but you sort of miss that sort of wave of relaxation you get from something like that.
Yeah, and with the jobs I did, like managing projects and managing teams, you always think about the next day, because you know you have to do this thing in advance, and you have to prepare this presentation, or you have to go take a plane to get there and give a talk there.
Yep.
It's just always something. And so you're never relaxed during and you're never relaxed during the weekend. You're never completely off, or during the holidays, because there are expectations. The emails are piling up. That, you're not there for 2 weeks. Well, good luck when you're going to be coming home, because everybody's going to dump their problems on you because you weren't there to solve them. And all of that makes it really hard to relax and disconnect and just feel like, okay, I'm done with the work, I'm stopping working. And I think like, of course, some other jobs are way harder, like
Mm.
manual labor, like are physically harder.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you come home, in a lot of cases, you can just like put your feet up and you're done. And
Yeah.
you don't have to think about it. You don't have to dread tomorrow. You don't have to anticipate. You don't have to keep working at home. You're just done. And that's
I
something I'm trying to do with YouTube as well. Like
mm.
when I publish a video, look at the stats, and then I'm gonna do something else. I'm not gonna look at it. I'm gonna completely relax, and I'll come back to it tomorrow.
Yeah, that disconnecting, like I've issued disconnecting from the channel as well. Like I know that it's there. I know there's things I could be doing. I know there's comments I could be reading. Whatever it is that's involved. Like I could be trying to schedule someone for the podcast, but
Yeah.
that's something I'm definitely trying to work on as well. And I don't really have a good solution for it, but it's a work in progress. It's something I know I need to improve on, and I'm trying to make it work.
But I think it just comes down to accepting that what you've already done is good enough. You don't need to do more. You don't need to always do more, always push it, always like go further. You can accept that what you've done for the day is good enough. And it's super hard to do because that's not something that we're trained for in, well, like Western. Would we consider Australia Western society? Because from where I live, it's not Western at all. It's
We're
super Eastern. It's
literally
Southern.
south of Japan, but
Yeah.
usually we consider part of the West because we have like we're basically America at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's say Western society, we're always pushed into doing more, like the grind, the hustle. You have a side gig and you need to grow and you need to buy a bigger house and a bigger car. And so like resting on your laurels is just considered being lazy. It's not considered a just reward. It's considered lazy. If you're not working, you're being lazy. And that's a problem because like for me, now I don't work 8 hours per day on YouTube. I work like 4 to 5 hours per day. And sometimes I have days when I'm like, oh, dude, you're really not doing anything today. And I'm like, you already worked. You did all you had to do. You even have like one video planned in advance. You're good to go. Like, you don't have to be stressed out. But intellectually, my brain still says, you're a lazy bastard, dude. Get up and do something. But I don't need to. Some days I just don't need to. And it's hard to accept that. Like, you're done. You don't have to work more all the time. You can just stop. If you feel like it, sure, do it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to.
No, I definitely know that feeling. I don't know. It always feels weird to just, especially when I get stuff done early. Like, but there's this like all this time that I should be doing it, but like I know that I should also just I've got this extra time. I should just use it to relax and just do something else, but it's like but I could also just like not do that and just keep hustling, keep grinding.
Yeah, I could write another script, or I could record another video.
Or I
could just.
I've recorded and planned 6 videos this week, but I could do 8, couldn't I?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Like sometimes I think, hey, you know what? If you're good enough, you could pick back up your gaming channel, dude, and start gaming, like live streaming every afternoon. Then I'm like, do you understand what kind of work rhythm that would imply? Like, I would have to wake up at 6 every day, work out until 8, then start working at 9, then finish at 1 p.m., and then at 2 or 3 p.m., you start live streaming for 4 hours. Like, you're gonna explode. You have to have some time off. And what a lot of my friends don't really understand as well is that working on a video is mentally taxing in a way that other jobs are the jobs that I did before are not. Like, when you have to write a script, to record, to edit, and to publish, you can't do anything else in the meantime. Like, you can't like watch a video and write a script. It's pretty hard. You can't record a video and watch a video at the same time. You edit, you're entirely focused on your edit. I think it's mentally you're hyper focused. And so for me, at least 4 or 5 hours of working on videos is more exhausting than 8 hours desk job that I had before.
Hmm.
So it
I
also needs to be taken into account, I think.
I don't really edit a ton, so I can like half pay attention, but the rest of it, like even like I know some people who work really well listening to music. Like they can I know people who like did their like final year thesis listening to music the entire time. I'm not a music guy while writing. I can't do that.
Yeah,
My
I can't either.
maybe I could do like possibly like classical, but if there are any lyrics, I can't
Yeah.
touch it. My brain just like jumps back and
Either no
forth.
lyrics or lyrics in a language that I don't understand.
The lyrics in a
But
language I don't understand, like that doesn't help for me. I try to
like if I
understand
listen
it.
to a song in German, okay, there's no way I understand anything they say, so it's just background noise, and so that's okay. But lyrics in English or in French, I'm done. I
Mm,
just cannot do anything else in the meantime. My
mm.
brain just gets pulled away.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that I think is as good a place to end as anything. We're actually closing in on 2 hours right now.
Yeah.
I I don't know if you had like a amount of time you wanted to go for or whatever,
No
but
specific schedule, no.
okay, well, good. Well, I think that's. I usually aim for around 2 hours anyway, so that I think is pretty good then. Where can the people find you?
Mostly on YouTube, so the channel is called The Linux Experiment, or on Twitter at The Linux EXP, or on Mastodon with the same handle, and I'm also on PixelFed, which I think is Nick at The Linux EXP,
Okay.
something like that. And that's about it. I'm also on Odyssey for people who are on Odyssey, and yep, that should cover it.
Any fun projects you got in store that you wanna mention, or nothing out of the ordinary?
I'm still trying to work on building a Steam console, but I tried it using a laptop which has so many issues that it just would not work well. But
Mm-hmm.
I still have that project in the works, and I will probably make a video once I manage something good using Holo ISO or something else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you got nothing else. I'll do my stuff then.
Yep.
Cool. My main channel, Brody Robertson. I've got the gaming channel, Brody Robertson Plays. I stream twice a week there. YouTube Shorts go up basically every other day. If you are listening to the audio version, the video version is available on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. The audio version, you'll find it anywhere that there are podcast feeds. There's like iTunes, whatever. There's an RSS feed as well, so you use anything else, you'll find it there. Yeah. I guess I'll give you the last word. What do you want to say to the people?
That's a good question.
I never tell anyone they get the last word, and it always surprises them.
Yeah. Yeah, keep using Linux, keep using open source, and just have fun with your computers. It's just a tool. Remember, it's just a tool, and it's just there to have fun and to do some stuff.
Awesome. Well then, see you guys later.
Bye.